Hello everyone, Hobbyist here, and we're back again with another Citadels character guide. This time, we are covering the rank 8 militaristic characters. Now, Citadels is pretty notorious for souring friendships and kind of being a dick to everybody around you. But hey, that's all part of the fun, right? Well, the primary reason why it's known for that is because of these rank 8 characters. All of these rank 8 characters do something to hurt somebody else's progress somewhere. And they all gain benefits from military districts. So these guys especially, more than anybody else before them, encourages highly aggressive play. Aggressively destroying or taking buildings and things of that nature. But let's go ahead and get into our first character. The character that we're going to cover is the classic of the classics. I bring to you the Warlord. I will say that when it comes to my personal experiences with a Warlord, before I get into any abilities or certain things of that nature, is that he's probably the most targeted and killed that I've ever seen in any Citadels game that I've ever played. Almost every time that someone picks the Assassin, they immediately go to kill the Warlord, because they are tired of the Warlord being able to get up and destroy other people's districts. But let's go ahead and get into those abilities, shall we? So the first one, actually on the top, is that the Warlord has the ability to destroy a district paying 1 fewer gold than its cost. So this essentially means, for example, that if you have a 1 cost district, the Warlord can destroy it for free, because -1 makes it 0. If it's worth 2 gold, then he can destroy it for 1 gold. 3 gold requires 2 gold, so on and so forth. Generally, the more expensive, the more gold that the Warlord has to pay in order to tear it down. And that can be huge. With the only exception being, all of these rank 8 characters don't have the ability to use their abilities when it comes to the bishop protecting them from all of their abilities. So that's something to keep in mind. And being able to get a gold from each military district can also be pretty huge. So it's honestly up to you, as the Warlord, to decide if you are going to be using the gold that you collect from the military districts to build more stuff, to get yourself more points, or if you're going to use that gold to tear down your opponents. It's honestly up to you. The next character that I'm going to be covering, if you decide that the Warlord is too boring, or you're just so experienced that you're tired of using the Warlord all the time, you have other options. The first alternative of switching out the Warlord is that you can use the Marshal. Now the Marshal is a very interesting character, because the Marshal has the ability to seize 1 district with a building cost of 3 or less in another player's city by giving the owner of that city gold equal to its building cost. The seized district is then added to your city. So as long as you get good with your money and get good with your costs, you can basically just keep buying cities from other people. The key thing that I nearly forgot to mention with both the Warlord, the Diplomat, and from the Marshal is that none of the rank 8 characters can use their abilities on completed cities, whether it's the 7 for any other player games, or if it's the 8 in the 2 to 3 player games. So that's very important to keep in mind. Pretty much throughout the majority of the game, you have the ability to do your abilities against other people's cities and districts. But being able to get the funds to essentially just buy out whatever cities that they have is huge. Especially if they're military districts, because he too also gets a gold for each military district that he owns. So if you're seizing the cheap prisons and stuff like that, then it's really good for you. Just remember that you can't have any identical stuff inside your city. Now we are on to the last rank 8 character inside of Citadels. And this is the Diplomat. The Diplomat is very different from any other character inside of Citadels that are rank 8, because, of course, at the bottom there, you can see that it says that he gets a gold for each military district that he has, but that's typical of any rank 8 character. So let's see what actually makes him different. His first and primary ability is that you can exchange one district in another player's city for one district in your city. If the other player's district has a higher cost than your district, you must give that player the difference in gold from your stash. If your district has a higher cost than the other player's district, that player does not owe you any gold in return. You cannot exchange for a district in a completed city, nor for a district identical to the city you are in. But you can exchange one of your districts if you have a completed city. Also, the districts coming from your city cannot be identical to a district already in another player's city. So, that was a lot of information, but basically, if your stuff costs more, and you want to exchange it for other people's, you can, especially if you're trying to go for the diversity cost versus the points cost, then that might prove beneficial to you. But otherwise, you can screw people over not by destroying what they have, but by reducing the quality of what they have, which is really cool, really interesting, and really annoying to deal with. But that's essentially what covers the Diplomat. The Diplomat's going to be the guy who you're going to be looking at buildings and be like, okay, I need to be storing up gold. So that way, if I see anything that's worth 5-6 points, I need to make sure that I'm building 4-point stuff or 5-point stuff. So that way, when I'm exchanging any of the cheap stuff that I have, I pay less. So that's the strategy that you pretty much need to go with going forward. But otherwise, this is the rank 8 characters. We are going to be moving on to the final characters inside of Citadels and the rank 9 characters. And hopefully, I will see you guys then.